Hello and welcome to Power to the People with me, Graeme Pryce. Well, I have to say, I never thought I'd be saying some of the things I'm going to say today when Labour took office. I think people do like to see me have a little rant, and I may do so. But I also don't want to let me gob run away with me and end up saying something that isn't true, or worse, repeating some right-wing bullshit. Something that looks like it might be factual because there's so much anger about at the moment, and every media source is rubbing their hands in glee at an excuse to attack Labour that is actually based in reality, for once. I wasn't able to catch the spring statement yesterday. I was at weekly guitar practice and I certainly wasn't going to miss that to look at Rachel Reeves' mug yapping about the economy. I haven't fully digested the whole statement yet. I'll try and sit down and read it properly over the weekend. But I've gone over a few points and I thought you might like me to share my thoughts on them. I do generally tend to be a glass half full kind of person, so I'll attempt to highlight some positives, if there are any. We'll find out after this. I was just looking at my channel analytics and I noticed that 53% of people who watch my videos weren't subscribed. The pain. Come on, just have a quick check that you've subbed, liked and rang the bell. Make a skinny old scouser a little bit happier today. So obviously, the biggest and most disappointing part of the spring statement was the announcements around welfare and benefits. This is going to be by far the most decisive part of the whole thing, and there are already Labour MPs saying that they will not back it and they will not vote for it, which is nice, of course, but it doesn't exactly suggest party unity and stable government, does it? The figures look quite grim, with Labour's own analysis suggesting that more than 3 million families will be poorer by 2030 and an extra 250,000 people will be pushed into relative poverty, including 50,000 children. This will result in 14.5 million people in the UK living in relative poverty by 2030, if there isn't some other sort of economical shift, of course. 14.5 million people in poverty out of 66 million people. In the country with the 6th largest economy in the world. Great Britain, my arse. Universal credit is going to rise, but so many other cuts will affect millions of people that rely on benefits that any gains will, likely be completely wiped out, and they'll get poorer as well. The cuts to PIP will definitely affect lots of people negatively, and even where they don't, the lack of any clarity and poor communications has led to the majority of disabled people in the country being terrified of incoming poverty and unlikely to vote Labour for the foreseeable future. Well done, Rachel. Apparently, there will be £1 billion to help people back into work. Well, we saw how that went with the cruelest actions of the Tories, and it wasn't particularly well, was it? And it didn't get that many people back into work. This is along with 400 million to improve job centres. Now, obviously, £400 million would be a vast sum of money for a little fella like me, but it's not a lot when it's spread across over 700 job centres. It isn't anywhere near enough to make a big difference, so it seems we can continue to expect poorly paid, undertrained and often vindictive morons to be operating the DWP with the incompetence, cruelty and banality that we've come to expect over the last 14 years to carry on. Thanks for that, Rachel. Now, of course, you could say that Labour is simply getting the worst things they have to do to recover from the era of Tory corruption and ruin out of the way as early as possible. And I do accept that the rise of fascism in the United States has spooked markets globally and changed rates of borrowing and interest and all that kind of thing. One thing Reeves was not wrong about is that we are entering uncertain times, as she put it. What she meant was Trump's presidency. The way things are going, I wouldn't be surprised if we see US soldiers fighting in Europe alongside the Russians before the next election. And the stupid little twats in red hats across the Atlantic will still be trying to blame it all on woke trans people. I'm not sure how making people poorer is going to help with morale on any front in any way. But she did announce that there were Defence budget rises to 2.5% of GDP, which it should have done anyway, but the Tories didn't bother, did they? She also announced that the UK would be using weapons, AI and technology made in the UK, creating jobs in Derby, Glasgow, Newport, Barrow, Portsmouth and Plymouth. Cheers, Rachel. I'm sure the Tories and the daft twats that still think they do a better job, despite them being the shittest government in history for the last 14 years, were eagerly hoping that the OBR, the Office for Budget Responsibility report, was going to be absolutely terrible. It actually wasn't. Apart from the fucking welfare thing, obviously. Labour had apparently hoped that they would be able to say they were going to get 2% growth throughout the duration of this Parliament. They didn't. They said to expect 1% growth. I think it's worth putting into context, though, that the Tories didn't achieve any growth in any one of the 14 years that they were in office. The amount of billionaires and millionaires increased. Of course it fucking did. But wealth inequality skyrocketed. Everybody else got poorer. Apparently Labour have decided that the best way forward is for only poor people and disabled people to get poorer now, instead of everybody. Cheers, Rachel. The OBR agreed that Labour's house building plans will see 1.3 million new homes by 2030, which isn't 1.5 million as was promised in the manifesto, but it's more than the Tories ever built in any single term. And it will also see a 40-year high in house building in the UK. So that's actually quite good, I suppose. She announced a £2 billion fund for social and affordable housing, which is also good. Disabled people now might be able to be even poorer in a nice newly built flat. Thanks, Rachel. Fuck's sake. Thank you for watching if you've gotten this far. I'm going to give my concluding statement and then wrap this up because I don't want it to be too long. And I want to hear more about what's being proposed from people who really understand it before I comment too much. I do think we have to consider that one criticism aimed at Labour throughout the last 2 or 3 decades is that they are the party that will give free money to scroungers. It's almost entirely bollocks, of course. The welfare bill rocketed under the Tories despite them being the harshest and cruelest slashers of welfare in history. But you still see the right-wing turnips saying it. I can understand if Labour think they want to demonstrate to these people that they can and do want people to work. It's in the title, as they like to remind us, rather than languish on benefits. But I find that quite offensive because, one, these people lot they're trying to demonstrate it to are nasty, misinformed fucking idiots. And two, making people poorer has never, ever, anywhere, in any scenario, in any country in history, led to them having a better quality of life. Labour seem to be sacrificing the goodwill and the vote of disabled people to try and pull in the vote of right-wing twatbags who believe every load of shite they read on Twitter. What's worse is that it won't work anyway. These people are dumb as fuck and they will continue to vote for the furthest right fascist prick who's got the biggest and brightest balloon on a stick. Metaphorically, of course. Labour being cruel to disabled people isn't going to change the minds of Nigel Farage lovers and reform voters. The only reason Labour probably won't lose my vote over this is because I know for a fact that the Tories had even worse benefit and services cuts baked into their manifesto. But whether it's a Tory shit with glitter on or a Labour turd rolled in gold flake, it still fucking stinks. I don't want to start rambling again anyway. Suffice to say, that isn't all I have to say, obviously. But it is as much of what I've got to say as I'm going to say today. Ta-ra. Every media source is rubbing their hands in glee and Buggered that up, didn't I, Anne?